Coming up on today's Locked On NHL, the playoffs are just days away, so we're going to handicap the race. We know our 8 teams, but what matchups are we hoping to see, and what needs to happen in these final couple days for us to get some elite first-round matchups? It's all coming up and brought to you by the Game Time app. Make sure you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and it'll get you $20 off your first purchase. This is the Locked On NHL podcast. It's your team every day.
Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen on this Thursday, April 13th. It's the Eastern Conference Wednesday edition, coming to you a day late but an hour early, recording bright and early in the morning on the second to last day of the regular season. But tonight is the last enormous schedule. Plenty of matchups to get to. We'll talk that. We'll talk playoffs and a whole lot more. As always, it's a Battle of Ontario edition of Locked On NHL. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me over at Locked On Senators 5 days a week. And joining me, as always, it's Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs. 2 teams in opposite directions. Mikey, verbal meme the people on the bus. One guy's coming home at 5 a.m. after a night out. The other guy is heading to work at 5 a.m. all fresh up. That's you and me right now with the Leafs and Sens.
I feel like I am kind of the guy that's going home right now, to be honest. I don't know how you wake up so early, man. Like, and you're 2 hours ahead of me. 1 hour, right?
1 hour behind. 7:50 a.m. right now. Let's ride.
Yeah, I feel like a bum for actually being this tired at 8:30 in the morning, but I just am. That's not in my wheelhouse, buddy. I'm a 9:30 guy. Just that half hour makes a big difference, man. Wow, does it ever. But I'm excited because you're right. There's a lot going on in the hockey world. I think it's absolutely maddening that we're in the second to last day of the NHL regular season, and there is only one matchup settled in the entire league. Like, the entire league year is coming down to the final 2 days. I think it's insane.
Now, we know our teams as of last night. Goodbye, Pittsburgh Penguins. Not to celebrate at a funeral, but don't mind if I do. A 16-year streak. And again, I'm putting a little asterisk on that 16-year streak. I'm putting one on the Leafs 6-year streak as well. Because that play-in 2020 should not be counting for playoffs. But you know what? I'm not splitting hairs here, Mikey. We'll give them their 16 years. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are not making playoffs. And there's plenty of reasons why. Hunter Hodes of Locked On Penguins has been covering them all year long. But me personally, as a guy who's been victimized by the Penguins year after year, including 2017, I'm choosing to believe that it was Dylan Ferguson's first NHL start where he made 48 saves and got the regulation win over the Penguins. That's what kept them out of the playoffs, Mikey.
Yeah, that one. Not the 5-2 loss to the Chicago Blackhawks the other night, but that was the one that put the dagger in the hearts of all Pens fans. Dylan Ferguson, the Fergler.
The Ferg Burglar. Let's go. Now, I want to start with you, though. Obviously, things got heated on, was it Monday night, where the Leafs and Lightning went head-to-head. I don't even care about your thoughts about the game right now because people can go to Locked On Leafs and listen to that. But what were your thoughts on John Cooper's quote after the game? If anybody missed it, this was just a lawyer at heart doing what he does best. Deflecting. And if you're watching on YouTube, I've pulled it up as well, courtesy of Eduardo Encina. Quote, "There was zero intensity in that game. I'm telling you, there was none. It may have looked like it from the stands. That was an exhibition game. It wasn't even a regular season game. Clearly, there was a mandate going into that game."
Yeah, that's just an asinine comment. Like, for anyone who watched that game, there were like 52 penalty minutes. There were 2 fights. Both teams were going after each other in scrums, post whistle, pretty much every after every single whistle. Like that had a very intense playoff feel to it. So very much an asinine comment, and just the way that John Cooper pretty much getting in the minds of Leaf fans, I think, but also just kind of twisting the knife and trying to your point, deflect what was probably a loss that Tampa not necessarily feels bad about, but like there's no Matthews, no Marner, no Giordano. They're playing their third string goaltender, Joseph Wall, and who else? Sam Lafferty missed. They were literally played the game a man short, only dressed 17 skaters, and they still lost that game to the Maple Leafs. So probably just deflecting to try and limit, any type of advantage that he thought Toronto could have gained from that win by saying it's a nothing game. There was no intensity. It wasn't. It went on to say it was an exhibition game. Like I don't know. That's literally what I thought it was. Just him trying to disarm Toronto into thinking that that game meant nothing to them. And oh, you thought that was intense. Wait till next week starts when we really pop you in the mouth, and we'll see what happens. But honestly, if anyone watched that game, there's no chance that there was zero intensity. It was a very intense game. Like before the game, there were comments coming out of the locker room of Tampa Bay, something to the effect of who did I see with those comments? Nick Paul, your boy Nicky Paul had some comments earlier in the day talking about how the game means a lot. It's a chance to set the tone, and like that was the messaging coming out of the Tampa locker room pregame. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out with this post game. Like it's just such a garbage comment by John Cooper. Like he's always doing this. He's a master manipulator, and I Leaf fans know it. So like no one's buying it here in Toronto. No one's buying that.
Yeah, well, it also takes away from the fact that the Lightning have lost 4 games in a row. I was boots on the ground on Saturday in Ottawa, 7-4 loss. And as we were talking about earlier before recording, like Brian Elliott isn't going to see much action there. And he was a big reason for that 7-4 loss. There's no question. But the Lightning team, like that, they don't scare me that much, which is crazy to say about a back-to-back-to-back Eastern Conference champion, 2-time Stanley Cup winner. But you got to think at some point these extra games might be catching up to them too, and the core isn't getting any younger either.
Yeah, it feels like it might be. Honestly, it really does. Like, and Toronto, if there's a year where everything's kind of going your way, it does feel like it's this season. I mean, everything could change come game one, and injuries could end up popping up into the equation. But right now they're the healthier of the two teams, and the deeper of the two teams, the better of the two teams. So I this is the season, man, that Toronto has to get it done, because I'm still of the belief that there's going to be some probably significant changes if they don't make it through the first round. It's a 7th straight first round exit for this club. Like every single thing outside of one guy named Andre Vasilevsky, who is somewhat the ultimate equalizer, everything else points towards Toronto Maple Leafs. So
Well,
got to get
home records. The home records are identical this year: 27-8-6, 27-8-5 right now.
Yeah, look at the road record, pal.
The Lightning can't win on the road, and the Leafs have home ice in this. The Lightning are 18-22-1. To put that in perspective, the Buffalo Sabres, the Washington Capitals, both missed the playoffs substantially, have better road records than the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. 18-22-1. But again, they also have the best goalie in the world.
Actually, I'll tell you exactly what, because I was curious about that. So I texted our boy Adam Danker over at Locked On Lightning and asked him, like, point blank. I'm like, I got a couple questions for you. First of all, I want to get his thoughts on Hedman. So there's that. But then I said, what's the story behind their abysmal road record? And his point was, when they're on the road, they allow teams to dictate the flow of the game early on. They're not assertive. They haven't been able to evolve their style all season long.
Mm-hmm.
So that's apparently the situation when they go play on the road. When they don't have the matchups to dictate the game, they seem to get exploited. And I think that is basically just because they don't have the depth they once used to, and in particular on the blue line. So teams can really kind of pick on the bottom end of those blue liners. Like they're no longer 3 guys deep like last year. The last 3 years they've had Hedman on one pair, McDonough on the second pair and Sergachev on a third pair. Well, you no longer have that. And you don't have Hedman playing at the elite level that he's been at. He's lost a little bit of a step this year. He's been
Hey,
playing through some injuries.
no Luke Shen.
Well, there's no Luke Shen, right? He's in Toronto now. But Jan Ruta is actually – he was a big time miss. Like, that guy was Hedman's top pair defenseman partner, and he's not there anymore. So, like, that could be factoring into Victor Hedman's, slight decline this season. Sergachev's been thrusted into a second pair role where, he's done okay. He's done pretty well, but still it's not Ryan McDonough, especially in his own end. And then the third pair, there's just no one on that line. Like, it's just, they're playing like Cale Fleury and Nick Perbix. Like, it's due to Cale Fleury couldn't make the Anaheim Ducks a year ago, 2 years ago. And now apparently he's going to play 6 games for you in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Ian Cole is going to be someone who's going to, play 18 minutes for you in the playoffs. Yeah, it's pretty bleak down there.
Yeah, I mean, talking about their road record in the 2 games they played in Ottawa this year, the Sens outscored them 14-6. They scored 14 goals in 2 games against these Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll see, though, because, again, teams like that, you're always wary that they're waiting for playoffs and they can just kind of flip a switch and make everything go away.
That is the concern, but they've also allowed 23 goals in their last 4 games and are looking a little leaky. And you're hearing comments coming from the coach that sound, I don't know, to me they sound a little panicky. It really does sound a tad panicky, if you ask me, from Coop.
There's Mike DiStefano's 9 a.m. alarm. Don't talk to him before 9 a.m. Don't talk to him before he's had his 9 a.m.
And typically that's a snooze button on that 9 a.m. alarm. That's just hey, by the way, you got to think about waking up. That's what
a rude alarm, though. That's not like a, hey, it's morning. That's like, get up, dude.
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm maybe an angry morning person. It's not a pleasant wake up when I get those alarms going.
Leave us a comment on what Mike should change his alarm clock to, because we need to get that a little smoother. How about the sound of the bzzz that they do at the Lightning Arena when they score, like that static lightning electricity that they have up top?
Maybe what the Florida Panthers in the cat yell.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Maybe it's because I heard it 7 times last week when Ottawa was down there and that wild fight fest.
Panthers yell.
Oh, my God. I'm happy the Panthers got in. Let's get into the wild card race because it's been fun. We'll do that after a quick word. You're listening to Locked On NHL. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is fast and easy to buy tickets to all sports, music, comedy, and theaters near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have. You got to browse through and see for yourself because Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, hockey, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy. I love that because you always want to be able to picture where you're going. Imagine you buy tickets and you sit there and there's a pole directly in front of you. Not with Game Time. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you'll never have to dig through your email either. It's just easy to do. So snag the tickets without the stress at Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NHL Game Time app, $20 off your first purchase. Go check them out at Game Time. All right, Mikey. Stanley Cup playoff matchups are set. I know here in Winnipeg, tickets are going on sale on Saturday, so I'm going to be locked on to the Game Time app Saturday just after noon Central Time. But it's the first whiteout. We'll save that for our friends over at the Western Conference edition of Locked On NHL. But it's a reminder that you can follow all of our great shows separately here on Locked On NHL. Of course, this is the flagship show where 5 days a week we have local experts on the biggest stories. But I would recommend following every single Locked On NHL channel, because this is the time of year where half our hosts are giving you early draft coverage. They're also following, we do our hashtag sends abroad, where we follow all of our former players. How are they doing wherever they at? But then the others are gearing up for the best time of year. It is really remarkable, the first round matchups that we could have. Mike, if you're in charge, who are we going to see in the first round? Because right now, the only matchup that's set is the one we discussed, Tampa Bay versus Toronto. There's some enormous implications in the final 2 games of the season, including, or final 2 days, 1 game for most teams. Carolina doesn't even have the Metro wrapped up, and it felt like a foregone conclusion at the entry of 2023 that they were going to get that.
I know, it's crazy. Like, the fact that it's all come down to the final 2 nights, final game, basically, the season, for pretty much every single matchup except for that Toronto Tampa one. Like, either of these teams can end up with the 1 or 2 seed in the wild card in terms of the Islanders and the Florida Panthers. And to your point, also Carolina and Jersey can flip flop for that division. So
Panthers, the Islanders are done though. They've played out their games. 82,
Yeah.
only team in the playoffs right now where they've played 82 of 82, and Sorokin could use the rest.
I would imagine that would be pretty helpful for that guy, because if they're going to do anything in the playoffs, I think they're going to need him. And to be honest, if I kind of want the Panthers now to pick up another point and end up with that first wild card seed, because I think the Islanders would actually give Boston a way better go. Like, if I had it my way, I think I would make it Islanders and Bruins as the round 1 matchup. I don't think the Islanders are going to upset the Bruins in the way that Columbus did to Tampa many years ago, but I think that goaltender could give them a run for their money. Like, I think they could at least maybe steal 2 games and make it a 6-game series potentially. Whereas the Panthers, I'm not sure I see them being able to really put up that much of a fight. As your boy's father, Keith Kachuk, said,
old Walt,
Walt said, soft team. I don't know if that soft team is going to play very well in the playoffs.
Well, Sam Bennett coming back would be a huge boost for them, because he's all nails. Like, he's the kind of guy you want to have in the playoffs for sure. But yeah, I saw an interview on Bleacher Report where both Kachuk brothers sat down. It was actually before that Wild meeting down in Florida. And apparently Walt's trying to take credit for being executive of the year after that speech on your station, TSN 1050.
They went on a heater.
Have they lost since? No, OT lost. But other than that OT loss,
yeah, they lost to Toronto,
because they won the next 5 games after they said that.
6, I think. Like, they legitimately went on and won like 6 straight games. It's crazy.
So they lost 5-2 in Ottawa. They lost 5-2 in Ottawa. Keith Kachuk goes on TSN 1050. They're 6-0-1 with a plus 18 goal differential since.
Dude, the Lion King. This guy, this is Hamburglar 2.0.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane what this guy's been able to do to put this team back in the playoffs. And I mean, I know that one of my bold predictions at the beginning of the season was that the Panthers were going to miss out on the playoffs. But like, that was a bold prediction. And then I didn't think it was actually going to be as real as it possibly could have been. And it almost looked pretty good. Like, almost was able to cash that thing. But Alex Lyon has come to the rescue, and he has been unfreaking believable down the stretch here. Really just stealing games right now for them. I mean, you watched that game. Were you in the building for the game, Ottawa and the Panthers?
No, that was down in Florida. I was there for Tampa.
Okay, but dude, like, that was a game that Ottawa they dummied Florida.
It's the most shots in a 5-goal loss since the 80s.
It was unbelievable. Like, you looked at the box score after that game and you're like, oof. What was, like, 7-2 or 7-1 or something like?
7-2. The deserve to win a meter was 99.1% for Ottawa.
Like, unbelievable. And it's like, dude, the Lion King comes up big and went on to make a whole bunch more saves, obviously.
he's unorthodox. Like, he doesn't look confident while he's doing it. He's like flying all over the place. He looks like a fish out of water, but nothing. He looks like a hassock back there.
He's making the saves, though, and that's all that matters. Like, the game against Toronto that they lost the other day in overtime, he made a stop on Morgan Riley where probably the luckiest save of all time. Like, Riley got a little bit of a backdoor. He was kind of leaking down the boards a little bit. Got a backdoor feed, and it looked like he was going to put it in the back of the net. And Lyon, like, kind of falls over, but as he's falling over, like, ends up getting the luckiest Marty Brodeur windmill type of save.
Yeah.
Just because he fell. Like, it was crazy the luck that this guy's getting too. That's playing a part of it. But yeah, I don't see them doing much damage once they get to the playoffs, though. Honestly, I think that they're gonna they're making it in. They're just gonna limp into the playoffs here. But to me, whether it's Jersey, whether it's Boston, whether it's Carolina, I think all three of those teams will make pretty quick work of Florida, where I think the Islanders could at least give the other teams a go.
So a bit of a wrench in this. The Florida Panthers are playing Carolina tonight. So if Florida wins that game in regulation, then the Devils have a path to win the division against Carolina, which would then alter the matchup again. So I think in all likelihood, if the Panthers are to get even a point, because a regulation win would be needed for Carolina to hold the tiebreaker against New Jersey.
Yeah, so
Carolina will get the tiebreaker. I need a Devils Rangers matchup, man. We've been promised this all year.
I mean, it would be good, but like I think Carolina, New York would be just as good a matchup, though, don't you? Like,
well, the Rangers own Carolina. Haven't they eliminated them multiple times?
Well, I mean, they beat them last year, but like, I still think that it'd be a great matchup to see.
Didn't they beat them 2 years ago too?
Perhaps.
I feel like it's a super lopsided, one of those random, just super lopsided records. And the Carolina Hurricanes always have a bunch of former Rangers on their team.
Yeah, that is true.
I guess it works both ways now. Vinny Trocheck's moved sides in that rivalry as well. But yeah, it'd be a good matchup. Come on, I just like the close geographical matchups get me fired up.
Yeah, the little tri-state matchup with the Rangers and the Devils. Certainly, yeah. Like if I am making the schedule myself, and if I'm ESPN, TSN, TNT, Sportsnet, whatever, like the rights holders, I probably would rather Jersey and New York. That's definitely more of a sellable series than the Rangers in Carolina would be, just because Carolina is a little bit more of an unknown market, I suppose, despite having a really good team. So yeah, I guess I'm with you where I would rather see Devils Rangers, but I wouldn't sleep on Carolina being able to put on a pretty good show against the Rangers as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Now, when we look at, and by the way, I was wrong. The Hurricanes swept the Rangers in the 2020 bubble, although the Rangers probably saying thanks because they ended up getting Alexis Lafreniere out of that deal. So not all bad, but either way, man, we're gonna have a fantastic playoff coming up with the Eastern Conference. Carolina, New Jersey, New York Rangers. Those are your three teams. Order TBD in the Metropolitan Division. We have Boston, Toronto, and Tampa in the Atlantic, and the Islanders and Florida Panthers in the wild card. Coming up next, Mike.
Really quickly, buddy, because I'm just seeing this on the Athletic. It was released today. Scott Powers, who's a beat writer for the Blackhawks, caught up with Patty Kane.
Does he do power rankings? Because I mean, that's too easy.
I don't know if he does do them or not. He has to, realistically, with a last name like Powers. He definitely has to. But caught up with Patty Kane, and I thought this was an interesting quote where he was asked, now that he's gone from Chicago, like, is he happy with the decision? And just because he labored on it all season long, and then eventually, obviously, made the move to get to New York. And he said, "I think I would have regretted it if I didn't come here, to be honest with you." So, it was funny.
Or what?
What's that?
Shot at Johnny Taylor because he wasn't healthy at the time.
There are some comments on John T. I haven't been able to read the whole thing, but there are some comments on Johnny Tays and his future potentially. So go read that in the Athletic by Scott Powers. But I did find it interesting how he said would have definitely regretted not making that trade.
Well, you can't say that the Rangers regret it because they barely gave up anything. But do you think he's come as advertised? 5 goals, 12 points in 18 games?
Yeah. Like what he was doing right ahead of that, ahead of the trade where he
I
was
know.
doing Super Saiyan mode, I think wasn't
He had
really
2 goals.
sustainable.
He had 2 goals, including the overtime winner right in front of my face on
Yeah.
New Jersey retirement night.
Yeah, he was pretty good against the Leafs as well, like a couple days prior to that. So I don't think that was sustainable, but for him to come out here like a 12 points in 18 games type of thing, get you a couple of goals, play on the power play. Yeah, I think that's probably what you're expecting of him. But you're getting showtime for the playoffs, so we'll see what he does moving forward with them.
Yeah, he's on a 3-game point streak right now, 3 assists in his last 3 games
There
with the New York Rangers. All right, coming up, I want to eulogize the Pittsburgh Penguins. And no, I'm not going to keep my hater hat on for the entire thing. I am actually very intrigued because the playoffs are usually better with Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin. It's the first time since 2006 since both those guys weren't in the playoffs. Mikey, Dominic Hasek was playing for the Ottawa Senators in 2006. Zdeno Chara was playing for the Ottawa Senators in 2006. I feel like I've lived 18 lifetimes since then, but now we've got a new era where young kids and I'm going to ask you this, Mikey, I'm going to give you some time to think about it. Who is going to be the breakout star of this playoffs where maybe he's had a good year already, but he's going to put himself into international superstardom with an elite playoffs? There's some good options. We'll get to that in the Eastern Conference, by the way. But I want to get to that and also eulogize the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's coming up next. You are Locked On NHL. All right, you are Locked On NHL on this Thursday, April 13th. Sorry for being a day late, but you're welcome for being an hour early. Nice early recording here. And playoff time, things age so quickly. We wanted to make sure that the New York Islanders did clinch a playoff spot last night. But with that, the Pittsburgh Penguins are out, eliminated. And a lot of the conversation around Locked On Penguins over the last little while, and it's been such an up and down year for them. Like after Dylan Ferguson did beat them 2-1 in Pittsburgh, the next episode, and that was like a month ago, was the Penguins are dead. Well, they ended up, limping towards the finish line, ultimately just falling short. But where do you draw most of the blame to with this Penguins team that had playoffs, if not Stanley Cup aspirations, and falling way short?
Probably the goaltending.
Yeah.
Like Tristan Jarry, he wasn't it. Wasn't able to stay healthy. Also, they had to rely on, other guys like Casey DeSmith came in and he wasn't really good enough, I guess, to play. But ultimately, to me, it definitely comes down to goaltending. I think there's an expiry date on every team and on every dynasty. I guess you're not going to call this team a dynasty, but like that core has been together for like 15 years pretty much. And it seems like this season, things just, not that they fell apart, but it kind of feels like it's the end of that dynasty, the end of that core being dominant and being able to, go into every game thinking that they could win it because they just, weren't the same. Crosby had a spectacular year. I don't even like, where did Gino finish in points in terms of the season that he had?
83 and 81. -11, though, is unlike Malkin typically.
But still, like, point per game player. Like, so they were able to fill the net. But
Dude, Gensel had 35 tucks.
It comes down to goaltending. That's at the end of the day. I think they just weren't able to get the saves when they needed them, and they ended up in track meets.
And it was also a tough season. I mean, Jeff Carter, who could have seen 38 years old, not the same player that he once was, but Mike Sullivan was just intent on always keeping Jeff Carter in the lineup. And he played 78 out of the 82 games. Obviously, off ice circumstances were tough on Chris Letang this year from a stroke before the season. And then obviously the untimely passing of his father. He missed 19 games, and I think at times didn't look the same, but of course you're just thinking of the person instead of the player there. Jeff Petrie, who they had high hopes for. I mean, Mike Matheson was fantastic in Montreal under the bad circumstances there, and Jeff Petrie missed 22 games this year. So yeah, back end and goaltending. Like, dude, it's the year 2022-23, and Dustin Tokarski was playing NHL games. I couldn't believe it when I saw he was in goal. I was like, Pierre Maguire, that infamous call in the World Juniors where he just spazzed out after a big save. That feels like 25 years ago. And so I was shocked to see that. But obviously, you need to rely on your top guy. And Tristan Jarry, when available, had his ups and downs. And yeah, there was a game this year where it was the alternate of Ottawa, Florida, where Ottawa was outshot heavily. But I think they scored 4 goals on 15 shots or something against Tristan Jarry. 5 goals because it was an overtime game. Brady had the OT winner in that one. And you're just like, man, you need to get a timely save now and again. So, yeah, I'm with you there. Where do they go next? You said it feels like it's over. Like if you were GM and Ron Hextall might not be for longer. Did you see the memes where it's like the Joker walking out of the hospital and it's on fire? And it just says Pennsylvania because people said he ruined the Flyers and now he's going over to you.
That's great. That's hilarious. I don't know. Like, that's the weird part because you almost like they just went and re-signed everyone this past offseason. Like, there's still a couple years left of Sidney Crosby's deal. You've got a couple more years of Letang and of Malkin after you just re-sign them. So it's almost like this team does have to, keep competitive for the next 2 years as long as those guys are there. They just re-signed Brian Rust. Gensel's on a long-term deal. So, like, those players are all pretty much locked in long-term. I mean, the only guy who is leaving is Jason Zucker, who is a UFA. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, who else is really of any consequence that's a UFA that's taken off here? Like Brian Dumoulin, maybe.
Tristan Jarry's UFA. So
well, I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. That opens up cap space to go and get a more reliable goaltender. Like,
don't look at the free agent market, though.
Well, yeah, you could go and you could make a trade. You could try and do something there, but I think that that's what they need to do at the end of the day is try and shore up that goalie position. Unfortunately, Tristan Jarry wasn't the guy. Was not the guy to get it done this year. Like a guy to 290 goals against, and it's just that's not going to win you a whole lot of hockey games. So if they can get themselves a goaltender, I think they can be back in the fight next year.
And courtesy of Cap Friendly, we're pulling it up if you're watching on YouTube. You can follow along at Locked On NHL wherever you get your podcasts, including as you're watching here on YouTube. And yeah, Mike, this is tough sledding for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That you have 2 more years of Sidney Crosby at $8.7 million. Now I don't know what the future holds for him after this deal. Certainly, he's the one who was obsessive with 8.7, so he took a huge pay cut, allowed his team to build around him, but. Like, does he get a courtesy, raise? Because, I mean, this guy's been underpaid forever. Like, I don't know what happens with Crosby. All those East Coasters are on good contracts, though. I guess McKinnon might be the exception once his kicks in.
Does he even continue after the 2 years over? Like, he'll be, 38?
I feel like his whole personality is hockey.
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Like, at some point, he's going to have to retire. I think, when did Gretzky retired at 38, didn't he?
But again, Gretzky, just like Crosby, they're so superstitious. Gretzky retired in the year 1999.
Yeah, I guess, Crosby won't go into 2087, but
oh no, but Gretzky in his last season had 62 points in 70 games, but he was dash 23 and only had 9 goals.
What a bum.
Yeah, what a bum. I mean, yeah, that's actually insane. But he was 38 years old. Sid 35 right now, but Sid just had 91 points, dude.
No, he's still got it, man. Trust me. I'm not thinking he's hanging up anytime soon, but I don't know. After that contract, he might decide, I'm still got my health. I'm gonna go out go out now. I don't know.
This is such a kick in the behind for Penguins fans if they're still listening to this. It's like, not only are we eulogizing this season, but now we're like, hey, in 2 years, Sid might be retiring.
And then that's curtains, buddy. That's curtains for that organization.
Yeah.
They traded all their picks too. It's like not like they have, a whole lot of draft capital and prospects in the cupboard to, like keep this thing going. They've given all of that up to try and keep it going the last couple of years. And unfortunately, just weren't able to get it done this season. What'd they do at the deadline? Did they make any moves at the deadline? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, they brought in Mikael Granlund for some reason. He's got 2 years left.
Yeah.
Still.
That was such a bizarre deal. Like there's rumors that they were in on JT Miller.
He had 1 goal in 20 games.
Yeah, he was awful. Like flat out awful.
Yikes.
That was the reason why they lost.
There you go.
That was the reason.
Raquel, who they brought in at the deadline last year and then re-signed, he had a great year.
Yeah.
He was solid. Interesting times ahead for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but let's end today's show talking about the players who are there rather than the ones that aren't. Who's a player you want to finish
quickly? Yeah, I do want to finish up really quick because this was a conversation that was floated into a group chat that I was in last night between the two teams, Pittsburgh and Washington, right? Crosby and Ovi. Who's more likely to make the playoffs again in their careers?
I love that question. I'm on Pitt. I hate to say it, but I'm on Pitt. If Backstrom was 100% healthy, I could be like, oh, you know what? The core and John Carlson, I think, is going to be back for a full year. That'll help. Washington had so many injuries this year.
The thing is, I think they both can get back into the playoffs next year.
No, because Ottawa and Buffalo are coming.
Yeah, I think they're coming, but I don't know, man. I still think that
Tampa that on the way out though too.
But I think that you look at that team in Washington, and I think they just had a really down year. But they moved out guys and almost are reloading.
Yeah,
they punted on the year and are reloading. There's some UFAs that are going to go. Like Craig Smith, they're going to pick up some money there. Connor Sheary is a free agent. They could pick up some money there. They traded out some money, and they've got a couple draft picks as well and some younger players that they traded for at the deadline just to try and, reload. So I think they could be active in the trade market and in free agency and somewhat be competitive again next year, assuming that everybody else who is dealing with the injury bug this year, Tom Wilson, Connor Brown, who's I guess technically a free agent, I believe, if those guys come back and can contribute, I think they could be a playoff team next year.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested at both of theirs, right? We talk about how long these streaks are and which one is going to kind of cower to that and be like, hey, it's time to rebuild, if either. Or,
dude, I don't think you can. When you have Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, you owe it to them for what they've given you at the discounts that they've given you. You owe it to them to stay competitive. If that means you're going to be a black hole organization for 3-4 years after that, so be it. You got to stay competitive for them. You owe it to them.
Totally. And no points against Chicago, but we do have to give stick tap. Sidney Crosby just reached the 1,500 point plateau in the NHL. 1,500 points. That is worthy of stick taps. A couple other milestones. Joe Pavelski hit 1,000 points. Claude Giroux hit 1,000 points. First time, Mike. So they were the 96th and 97th players to reach 1,000 points. The first time that two players have done it on the same day. It's kind of cool. They've got a lot of similarities between them as well. Captain in one spot, move over to a veteran leadership role, but then work their way and be like, no, we're still first liners. We're just going to help out the kids like he's been doing with Robertson and Stützle in respectively. Kind of cool that they're still kicking at 35, 37.
Yeah, I find it funny, and maybe it's because I'm in Canada, so it was a Canadian market thing, but it seemed like everybody was on Giroux watch that night, and that was heavily advertised that, everyone on Giroux watch could get to 1,000 points tonight, and he did it. But then you're seeing highlights. Oh, and another guy gets to 1,000. It's like his name wasn't even mentioned as a possibility of getting to 1,000. It was all about Giroux. And then all of a sudden, boom, Joe Pavelski ends up getting there as well. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, Pavelski's sick. He's awesome. And it's funny, too, because, Giroux added his 1,001st point later in the game. Oh, so did Pavelski. Get this. Giroux, 78 points this year. Pavelski, 77. So they needed the exact same amount to get there. And not to brag, but the day Giroux signed in Ottawa, he was at 923 points. I said he was getting it this season. So nice hot take that seared the steak just perfectly for me over at Locked On Senators. But man, what a season. I'm mad I missed it by one game. Giroux got the empty netter in the game against Tampa, and then the 2 first period tallies got them over the hump. But I really want to ask you this question here. I think it's a fun one. Who's going to be the breakout star of this postseason? Because next time you and I talk, Mikey, next Wednesday, game ones are going to be in the books.
A breakout star, like
superstar. Like you could, like, he's not going to be my choice, but like I would accept like Jack Hughes as an answer, who's kind of like elevated.
Okay, so he's already a star, but hasn't made that playoff mark yet.
Like international star, where it's like, okay, everyone, like if they're in the States, like you said, Pavelski gets 1,000 points. Nobody up here really cares. No, in the playoffs, that's where you can make your brand, 3 steps forward.
All right, let me see. Who do we got?
Kind of like Cale Makar did, right? Like when they won the championship.
Dude, if Cale Makar wasn't already a superstar in your mind,
that's fair.
I don't know if you're a hockey fan, to be honest with you.
That's
like,
fair.
and I feel the same way about Jack Hughes. Like, it'd be dirty to use Jack Hughes. Like, I know he hasn't made his mark in the playoffs, but like that guy is an absolute superstar.
Right.
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, who might be if they go on a long run? I would think that Martin Nakash could end up being like a household name. He's going to do some damage.
He's sick.
Yeah, right. And like I feel like he hasn't quite he's having a big year, but I don't know how many people have noticed it. But come playoff time, I think they'll figure it out. Who's a sneaky one, honestly, and this is completely a homer pick on my end, but people are gonna, I think, put a little respect on the name Jake McCabe in a week's time.
Okay.
Jake McCabe is a guy who he's not gonna be a superstar because of the game he plays, but people are gonna respect him more as a complete warrior. Like the way that he played the other night against Tampa Bay, if he could replicate that over a 7-game series, like people will be looking at this guy as, I actually am not even going to use that as an option. I was going to say like a Keith Seabrook type thing as a shutdown defensive defenseman of like Brent Seabrook, but probably not that. That'd be a little hyperbolic, but still like just a solid, reliable shutdown defenseman. I think you'll get some respect there.
Okay, I'll go with Patrick Kane. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Good one. Hey, you know what? Actually, legitimately, I'll give you one more on that team. He kind of started his breakout last year. I think he continues it in the playoffs this year. Philip Hedl.
Yeah, he's so sick, dude.
Yeah,
he's so much fun to watch. You know what? Because I like you and me, like we're blue and red pom poms with the New York Rangers. We absolutely love them. Who's had a sneaky, unbelievable year and will continue in the playoffs? Keandre Miller.
Oh, yeah.
He's so filthy, dude. And I think when the physicality ramps up, sometimes I don't think he plays mean enough. Like he's so smart with the puck, but he needs to remember sometimes that he's built like a linebacker. He's 6'5", 220. Like I want him like Braden Schneider, the other rookie defenseman on the Rangers, who's also sick. But he's like, he's like mean out there. I want to see Keandre Miller add a little bit more to his mean streak. And I think he's going to be like the stud of the playoffs, man. 43 points this year, but I'm going to be watching Keandre Miller as my breakout candidate. And yeah, he's not going to score a point per game or anything, but when you look at what he's going to bring on the defensive side of the puck as well, I'm going to be fired up to watch Keandre Miller. So I'll give you that. And then a bonus homer pick too out west. Cole Perfetti's coming back, baby. I think he's going to be the guy. Going to be the guy to bring that power play unit. Yo, by the way, I had no idea how sick Nino Niederreiter is. That guy can play puck.
Dude, he's always been a good player. He's been a really good player. Just, been on bad markets, right? Like he was on the island when they were irrelevant. He was in Carolina, and then he was in Minnesota. Like just kind of in bad markets. And now he's still in a bad market. Up in Winnipeg.
They needed exactly that this year, and he's brought it and more. So again, man, the Islanders and Jets to me are like the exact same team, both wild cards. But to me, it's like you got probably the best goalie in the playoffs in your conference. How good, dude? Hellebuck started 13 straight games and they made the playoffs on the last day. This guy has been ridiculous.
Starting back-to-backs and everything. I'll give you one more bonus pick. I think you're gonna like it a lot.
Just kidding.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Dawson Mercer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, bye. Good Newfie.
Dawson Mercer will be a household name within the next 2 weeks. People will be talking about this kid. He'll score some unbelievable goals. He plays a good hard style that could, translate well into the playoffs. I think Dawson Mercer will be a name that people will be using quite a lot over the next couple of weeks.
I looked at him. I looked at Jesper Brad. I looked at the Devils. But to me, if you're going to make a run, that's when you get that fame or that kind of notoriety. So I can't pick a Ranger and a Devil, assuming to me that they're going to meet in the first round. So I do like that pick, though. I think Dawson Mercer's been a sneaky, redraft or way too early redraft of top 20 picks. He's top 10 easily. And I don't think he went till the mid 20s, did he?
I think he was late teens.
Yeah, 18, something like that.
18 overall.
He's nasty. He brings speed to the game. He brings everything. Well, since this is our last show before playoffs, last thing, give me your cup pick. Or here. It's the
Why don't we save it for
Conference.
next week? Why don't we save that for next week?
Okay, but since it's the Eastern Conference edition, give me your. I guess we don't even have the matchups, eh?
That's it. I don't know who's going through where, who's going to be playing. Let's wait till next week because by then it'll be, we'll see the first games of everybody. And then I think we'll have a better understanding of how things will look.
Eastern Conference Stanley Cup preview coming next week after the playoffs start. I like it. Final thoughts today, Mikey. I got to tell you, I went to FanDuel plus 550. I got Tampa to win in 7.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. We're not friends.
The Leaf pile will be I saw there's some tears in the Leaf pile last night, Jurassic Park at the time, but blowing a 19-point lead in a must-win game. Yikes. That's tough for people like me who were on them on FanDuel. When it got close, I was like, oh, they're making it close. Nice. The odds will be good. And then it's like, wait, not this close. No. Yo, but final thoughts for me. The NBA, they cannot continue letting DeMar DeRozan's kids shriek after every single free throw. Imagine sitting right in front of that.
Dude, I literally never wanted, I've never wished harm on a child in my life. But, the fact that little girl was able to stay in that arena the entire night.
Times.
Dude, and it was effective. That's the worst part. The Raptors shot 50% from the free throw line with that little girl shrieking at the top of her lungs. Oh my God, I was so annoyed by it. I honestly wanted someone to pull her out of that arena by her hair. But anyway.
Yeah, you look. Do you think they'll let her go to Miami and do that again?
So I thought I saw that. No, it was a one-time thing.
Oh, cool.
Not going to continue this outside of Toronto. This was the
Uncle Kyle would not be having it.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an FU from the DeRozan family to the team.
Fair. He didn't get his ring, so.
Well, I don't know if anyone would have got a ring if DeRozan didn't sacrifice himself that way. But what are you gonna do?
That's crazy. That was absolutely wild. Anyways, what's really wild for all you hockey fans out there is the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's coming. And for all you sickos out there, we're less than a month away from the Connor Bedard draft lottery. So get set for all of that coming up over the next month. Make sure you're following your favorite and all of the Locked On NHL channels. You can find them on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Locked On and then the team's name. That's all you need there. For today, we say goodbye. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On NHL podcast. It's your team every day.